인사드리겠습니다. 부스터 에이턴 안녕하세요 에이턴입니다.
In our headlines on this Tuesday, March 4th, here in South Korea. For the first time since October last year, all three major economic indicators, including industrial output, retail sales and facility investment, lost ground on month in January in yet another sign of anxiety over US tariffs and their potential repercussions. And speaking of US tariffs, the blanket 25% import duty on Canadian and Mexican goods entering the American market are going into effect on this Tuesday, as pledged by the Trump administration, while China faces additional tariffs. Also, on the diplomatic front, US President Donald Trump calls for a halt in American defense support to Ukraine following a dramatic exchange with President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House last Friday. We begin with the triple tumble, if you will, of Korea's industrial output, facility investment and retail sales in January, amid growing concerns of the broader impact of US tariffs. Park Gon-woo has our top story.
South Korea's production, investment, and consumption all dropped in January, according to data from Statistics Korea on Tuesday, marking the first decline in 2 months.
That was mainly due to the base effect from relatively strong growth the previous month and fewer working days due to the long Lunar New Year holiday.
Overall industrial output in January decreased by 2.7% on month. That's the largest drop in nearly 5 years, since early 2020 when the number of COVID-19 cases started to surge. The mining and manufacturing sector fell by over 2%, despite a slight increase in chip production. In investment, facility investment plunged more than 14% on month, the biggest drop in over 4 years, driven by declines in machinery and transport equipment. Construction and civil engineering project results also fell, contributing to the overall drop in investment. Consumption also decreased in January by 0.6% compared to the previous month, with drops seen in items such as cosmetics. One expert said it'll be difficult to see any positive signs across the board throughout the year, especially regarding the tariff war.
The exports will decline dramatically. Korean companies are exporting goods produced in China to the United States. That will be devastating. And another one is many Korean companies have established the factories in Mexico.
Amid these challenges, the Finance Ministry has vowed to strengthen efforts to support the recovery of people's livelihoods and boost exports through funding. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
And on the topic of tariffs, the 25% duty on Canadian and Mexican imports into the American market are going into effect on this Tuesday, as are additional tariffs against China. And Sung-jin reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump's imposition of 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico went into effect on March 4th local time. Likewise, tariffs on China were doubled to 20% on the same day. However, these countries issued immediate responses. China's Ministry of Commerce was quick to respond, issuing a statement that said Beijing will take retaliatory measures, with import taxes of 10 to 15% on some U.S. goods, including American beef, pork, dairy, and agricultural products starting from March 10th. The statement also said that imposing tariffs is a typical act of unilateralism and bullying. China also vowed to impose export control sanctions on some American companies for strategic items. Canada has also retaliated by immediately imposing 25% tariffs on 30 billion Canadian dollars or 20 billion US dollars worth of US imports, adding that more will be levied on another 86 billion US dollars worth of goods within the next 21 days. In a written statement, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said these tariffs will continue until U.S. trade measures are withdrawn. These corresponding measures come as Trump again cited drug trafficking as a major reason for the import taxes.
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set.
Trump on his social media further announced that the U.S. will be levying tariffs on crop purchases as well, starting from April 2nd. Fruit, vegetable, and nut imports have been climbing, leading to an agriculture trade deficit in the U.S. As Trump continues to slap tariffs, the U.S. economy has been startled. U.S. stocks plunged on Monday with the Nasdaq dropping by around 3% and the Dow Jones losing nearly 2%. Pundits say as investment confidence has fallen following the tariff impositions, there are growing concerns for the U.S. market, especially regarding inflation.
I think the tariff scenario is definitively an inflationary aspect to what can happen within the economy and the market. Right now, what I'm seeing and hearing is a little bit of a stagflation concern.
The tariffs are raising concerns that tit-for-tat levies could eventually lead to a global trade war. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC has pledged an additional $100 billion investment into plants in the U.S. The announcement was shared at the White House on Monday, following a meeting between the company's CEO, C.C. Wei, and U.S. President Donald Trump, who claimed the investment would boost chip production on American soil and bolster national security as Washington seeks to reduce its reliance on chips made here in Asia. This latest pledge of investment by TSMC follows its earlier pledge of $65 billion in recent years, with plans for a third factory in Arizona by the year 2030. Meanwhile, in China, the country is hosting its biggest annual political event against the backdrop of heightened trade tensions with the U.S. in a complex geopolitical landscape. Our Easing J touches upon the potential issues on the agenda at the latest two sessions.
On Tuesday, China begins its largest political event of the year with the annual plenary sessions of the National People's Congress and of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, collectively known as the Two Sessions. Much of the discussion is expected to focus on countermeasures against Trump's tariff war. On top of the 10% tariff U.S. President Donald Trump initially imposed on China, another 10% tariff was added on top as the U.S. leader felt that not enough was being done to stop the flow of fentanyl into the United States. This brings the combined tariff to 20% on Chinese imports since the start of the Trump administration. According to China's Foreign Ministry spokesperson last Friday, Beijing will seek necessary measures to firmly safeguard its interests.
The U.S. has once again threatened to impose additional tariffs on Chinese products exported to the United States under the pretext of the fentanyl issue. China is strongly dissatisfied and firmly opposed to this. We will take all necessary measures to firmly safeguard our legitimate interests. China has repeatedly stated that there are no winners in trade and tariff wars. The unilateral imposition of tariffs by the United States seriously violates WTO rules and harms the interests of both countries and the world.
According to experts, China could respond to Trump's tariffs by targeting American agricultural products and food. As China is a major importer of American agricultural products, such retaliatory measures would greatly affect American farmers and exporters alike. With the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference opening the 2 sessions on Tuesday, the top political advisory body will first discuss countermeasures against the tariffs. They're also set to discuss economic policies as the country sees an economic downturn. During the 2 sessions, an economic growth target of around 5% is expected to be announced, and a policy of replacing old consumer goods with new ones will be further expanded to increase domestic demand. A special national bond issuance is also expected to be used to stimulate the economy. Meanwhile, the National People's Congress on Wednesday is expected to present China's national administration direction. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
On the diplomatic front, U.S. President Donald Trump has called for a halt in American defense support of Ukraine following a dramatic exchange with President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House last Friday. Our Kim Jong-sil has the latest.
U.S. President Donald Trump ordered a pause in all military aid to Ukraine just days after the heated confrontation with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the White House. Multiple U.S. media outlets reported on the decision on Monday local time, citing senior administration and military officials.
An agreement to end the war is still very, very far away, and no one has started all these steps yet.
Trump, who is eager to bring an end to the conflict quickly, slammed the Ukrainian president's remarks shortly after.
I want to see it end fast. I don't want to see this go on for years and years. But he said he thinks the war's going to go on for a long time. And he better not be right about that.
Trump also suggested that if Zelensky continues to resist negotiations with Russia, his position may soon be in jeopardy.
Now, maybe somebody doesn't want to make a deal. And if somebody doesn't want to make a deal, I think that person won't be around very long.
Trump's order reportedly halts over $1 billion in military aid as he demanded Ukraine demonstrate a commitment to peace talks with Russia. He has repeatedly called on Zelensky to show more gratitude for U.S. aid, while European allies have expressed frustration over the lack of progress in peace talks.
Clearly, we've had a major U.S.-European break on all of this, something that I think the Russians in their wildest hopes wouldn't have dreamt of before.
Stent warned that this could signal the beginning of a U.S. exit from Europe. With the U.S. and European allies at odds, Russia's President Vladimir Putin may look to exploit the diplomatic divide to push for further territorial gains while peace efforts remain stalled. Meanwhile, French Prime Minister François Bayrou condemned the meeting between Trump and Zelensky, calling it an attempt to force Ukraine into agreeing to a deal with Russia under duress. This escalating situation has raised significant concerns about the future of the war and the Western alliance. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
And a senior U.S. official for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation is scheduled to arrive here in South Korea tomorrow, that is Wednesday. According to the U.S. State Department, APEC Ambassador Matt Murray's week-long visit to South Korea will include agendas here in Seoul and in the host city of this year's APEC summit, Gyeongju. Now, Murray is expected to engage with government officials and business leaders here to better align American and South Korean interests ahead of the annual gathering slated for this November under the theme of building a sustainable tomorrow. Now, South Korea's southern port city of Busan hosted the APEC summit back in the year 2005. We take you now to Spain, where the world's largest mobile device showcase has opened its doors with, of course, AI taking center stage. Our correspondent Isujin files this report from Barcelona.
Thousands have once again made the annual pilgrimage to Barcelona for the latest innovations in mobile devices and telecommunications. And at the 2025 Mobile World Congress, one theme dominates: artificial intelligence.
It's basically every booth that you are crossing is the one about AI integration. So it's all about AI mostly.
One such booth where AI is taking center stage is South Korean telecom giant LG U+'s first ever solo exhibition at MWC, where visitors are greeted not just by staff, but by the humanoid robot Alice.
I'm Alice, a humanoid robot, and I'm here to help you at MWC 2025. What would you like to know or experience?
Alice, can I take a photo with you? But it's not just about eye-catching AI technology, as LG U+ is showcasing AI innovations that are secure.
As AI develops, so there are more crimes related to AI, such as so the criminals use the AI-generated voices. Basically, there are many generated AI's defects, such as personal information leakages.
LG U+'s AI-powered technology, anti-deep voice, is designed to detect voice phishing and fraud by distinguishing between real human voices and deepfake voices.
We will send you the final version of the proposal.
After my voice was recorded, it was turned into a deepfake to test the technology.
This is the investigation team. Your identity is being reviewed for financial fraud.
The AI technology successfully detected that my voice was a deepfake. The focus on secure AI is also evident in the mobile industry, particularly in Samsung Electronics' latest mid-range smartphones, unveiled for the first time at this year's convention.
That the Galaxy AI is providing you this new way of interacting with the device, also in a secure way. So the user have to be trusted that his information is never going to be compromised.
And the more budget-friendly prices are set to make secure and advanced AI-powered features, such as AI-enhanced photography, once limited to high-end models, more accessible. AI-enhanced photography features were also what drew large crowds to Chinese smartphones. Huawei showcased the world's first commercial trifold smartphone, utilizing AI to enhance zoom capabilities for photography, while Xiaomi debuted its 15 Ultra, featuring AI-driven extreme zoom and image clarity enhancements for photos. From AI-driven security solutions to AI-powered smartphones, this year's MWC is making one thing clear: artificial intelligence is no longer an option but a necessity for mobile and telecom innovation. Isujin, Arirang News, Barcelona.
Acting President Choi has called for unity on the national front as Korea faces a host of concerns amid the threat of U.S. tariffs and shifting global order. No remarks to this end were shared during a cabinet meeting earlier on this Tuesday, during which he urged the main opposition party to rejoin the multilateral talks with the government and ruling party on state affairs. The talks fall under the consultative body launched by the parliament and the government amid the current political turmoil. Now, last week, opposition lawmakers refused to partake in the talks, citing acting President Choi's continued failure to appoint Justice nominee Ma Eun-hyuk to the Constitutional Court, as recommended by the National Assembly. Now, there has been a more recent development in this story. Ruling and opposition lawmakers have agreed to meet this coming Thursday afternoon for talks on state affairs in the absence of the government amid the ongoing conflict over the appointment of Justice nominee Ma Eun-hyuk. Most parts of Korea witnessed snow and rain starting early Tuesday morning, and in quite a few places, that is, the precipitation will persist into the late hours of this evening. Dozens of ferries and flights have been cancelled, and property damage of greenhouses and livestock sheds has been reported. Accordingly, the Interior Ministry has raised its alert level from attention to caution. Also, as of noon, a heavy snow advisory was issued for some regions, including eastern Seoul and some parts of eastern Gangwon-do province. About 3 centimeters of snow has fallen in Seoul, while about 7 centimeters of snow accumulated in Ulsan in the southern part of the country. The advisory is issued when more than 5 centimeters of snow is expected to accumulate within 24 hours. On the K-pop front, BTS member J-Hope will perform his new track, Sweet Dreams, on the popular American talk show, The Tonight Show, starring Jimmy Fallon. According to his agency, Big Hit Music, on this Tuesday, J-Hope will be on the show next Monday for the first time as a solo artist. Meanwhile, his new track features global R&B star Miguel and will be released worldwide this Friday at 2 p.m. Korea time. Previews of the track can be found on J-Hope's official TikTok account. In other news, a special tour program took place this past weekend, offering those interested a rare glimpse of civilians across the inter-Korean border and more. Our defense correspondent Kim Bo-kyung has details.
Hundreds of people have gathered at Seoul Station to visit strictly controlled tourist spots near the demilitarized zone. They are on Group DMZ Peace Train tours offered by national railroad operator Korail's subsidiary Korail Tourism Development, headed by Kwon Baek-shin. Gyeonggi-do Province and the cities of Gimpo and Paju, marking the 80th anniversary of the country's liberation. This limited one-day trip provides 3 courses and one is visiting Gimpo. Going on a train itself gave them the journey's excitement, but scheduled events spice things up.
In Gimpo, a coastal barbed wire trail runs along the Hangang River, offering a unique experience of walking along the DMZ border. Also, visitors can experience local culture by trying coffee grounds using a Korean traditional millstone, setting it apart from other places.
There were guides leading everyone so we could travel comfortably on schedule. We could also wear military uniforms on the train, and there were many other enjoyable activities.
The preset itinerary offers a lot, but the most notable is a visit to the Aegibong Peace Eco Park in Gimpo City. At Jogang Observatory, people can see North Korea's border county of Gaepung, just 1.4 kilometers across the Imjingang River. Within this restricted military zone lies a branch of the iconic capitalist coffee brand Starbucks, which operates under strict security protocols. It has already attracted many visitors eager to get a rare glimpse of North Korean civilian villages. Coffee in hand, visitors can take a look at the villages, with some lucky enough to find North Koreans plowing and doing laundry in the spring. That is, however, not the only feature of Aegibong Park.
Although it is located within the civilian control line, it opens at night once a month. About 10 years ago, there was a steel tower where a Christmas light ceremony was held every year. This no longer exists, but instead, we offer a unique trail that looks like a Christmas tree as a whole.
An opportunity to witness the traces of a divided nation's history and have a peek at North Korea from up close. The DMZ Peace Train program will continue this year, starting in mid-April. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News, Gimpo.
This is The World Now, bringing you the latest stories around the globe. At least 2 people were killed by Israeli drone fire in Rafah, and 3 others were injured in Khan Yunis on Monday local time. This comes amid growing fears of renewed conflict after the first phase of a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas came to an end over the weekend. The initial ceasefire, which began in January, expired without an agreement on how to proceed. Hamas is demanding the immediate implementation of a second phase, calling for a full Israeli military withdrawal from Gaza. However, Israel has proposed a temporary extension of a ceasefire until April, contingent on further hostage and prisoner exchanges. After negotiations to extend the ceasefire broke down, Israel on Sunday imposed a total blockade on Gaza, cutting off all supplies, including food and fuel, to the enclave. At least 2 people were killed and 11 others were injured in the western German city of Mannheim on Monday local time when a car was driven into a crowd during a carnival celebration. Authorities have arrested the suspect, a 40-year-old German man, who is now under investigation for 2 counts of murder and multiple counts of attempted murder. According to Mannheim prosecutors, the man shot himself following the attack but survived and is in a stable condition in hospital. They also said the attack did not appear to be politically or religiously motivated, but suggested the suspect may have been mentally unstable. Police in Mannheim had been on high alert after a surge in violent incidents in Germany in recent months. In December, a similar car ramming attack occurred in Magdeburg, followed by another in Munich last month. Pope Francis is back on a ventilator in a hospital in Rome after experiencing 2 episodes of acute respiratory distress on Monday. According to Vatican official later the same day, the Pope's acute respiratory distress had stabilized and the 88-year-old pontiff was under careful observation. Pope Francis was admitted to the hospital on February 14th due to a respiratory infection with pneumonia detected in both lungs. The latest setback means the Pope will miss the procession and Mass on Wednesday, marking the first day of Lent. U.S. space company Firefly Aerospace successfully landed its uncrewed lunar lander Blue Ghost on the moon, becoming the second private company to successfully land on the moon. Blue Ghost, about the size of a compact car and equipped with 4 legs, carried 10 scientific payloads. It landed in the northeastern region of the moon in the early hours of Sunday, U.S. time. Firefly claims it is the first to achieve a fully successful soft landing. Previously, Intuitive Machines landed its Odysseus lander last year, but it touched down at an angle, causing many of its onboard instruments to malfunction. 윤세영, Arirang News.
Rain started in the southern parts of the country at dawn today and expanded across the country. Snow has been falling in some central areas, including Seoul. Looking at the amount of snowfall, up to 40 centimeters or more will fall in the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province and up to 30 centimeters in the northeastern mountainous areas of Gyeongsang-buk-do province. The snow will mostly stop tonight. From tomorrow, which is Gyeongchip on the traditional calendar, the cold will recede and the normal temperatures for this time of year will be restored. However, rain and snow will continue until tomorrow on the East Coast and Jeju Island. Tomorrow morning, Seoul and Daejeon will start off at 0 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at -2 degrees. Daily highs will move up to around 10 degrees all over the country. Temperatures will return back to spring conditions throughout this whole week. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
Right, those are the headlines at this hour here in South Korea. Coming up right after this break is our daily panel session, so do stay with us. Thank you for now.
How to survive in Korea. Workplace. Step 1. Lunchtime. The most important morning routine is to check today's menu. Food is essential for survival. Memorize today's menu. The highlight of office life. Lunchtime. Rice in the bottom left, soup in the bottom right. The top is for the sides. The sauce and the spoon go here. This is the basic layout, but it's a bit odd to switch rice and soup. When you're done, pour the leftovers into the soup bowl. It doesn't look that appetizing, so wait until others are done eating. Step 2. Neng, nep, nenep. These are the most used expressions at work. Choose the most appropriate form. Neng, nep, nenep. Remember that the formal ne can sound a bit stiff. Did you just say yes? Absolutely not acceptable. You want to find the right word for the right occasion. Step 3. Desteria. Desteria is the oasis in the desert. Show them your character. If you're not the diligent type, get a stooky plant. Work is tough. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Weep and you weep alone. Stay put like the stooky that survives in the desert. Hang in there until the end. Of course, you can always quit. You matter more than anything else. Step 4. Survival kit. Every worker needs a survival kit. Survival kit level 1. This position gets the most exposure. Grab one when you need a sugar boost. Always keep a few treats you can offer your co-workers. Survival kit level 2. These are for hunger pangs before and after a meal. You'll need them when you take a coffee break with your office buddies. Survival kit level 3. Trash talking your boss with your soulmate. Did you survive in the workplace? Office romance? Be careful. Even the photocopier knows all the gossip.
네, 인사드리겠습니다. 포스터 에이터. 안녕하세요, 에이터입니다.
A Japanese survey shows a tangible boost in Japanese public sentiment towards South Korea last year. Now, 51% of the Japanese respondents aged 18 and above believe South Korea and Japan have favorable ties. We have more on the survey results and their implications on Press Perspective today. Hello and welcome to this work week's first edition of Press Perspective as we here in South Korea return from a long weekend to mark the March 1st Independence Movement Day. Now today, that is Tuesday, March 4th, we touch upon ties between Seoul and Tokyo as the two countries celebrate 6 decades of diplomatic relations this year. For more on this, I have Koichi Yonemura, the Deputy Foreign News Editor at the Mainichi. Live on the line, Koichi, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
I also have Professor Im Jung of International Relations at Koongju National University with the pundit's take on today's topic. Professor Im, as always, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Right, Koichi, we'll start with you. Let's start with details of this survey by the Japanese Cabinet Office. How is it conducted? What were its results? And to what extent are they accurate, Koichi?
This Japanese government cabinet conducts a survey on foreign relations every year, and the latest survey took place from October last year. It was done by mailing questionnaires to 3,000 Japanese citizens aged 18 and older. And this time, a total of 1,700 people responded. The survey has been conducted since 1975, so it has a history, and it is considered as a reliable source, and is often quoted in major newspapers and research papers. And the result this time was released in February, and one key finding was that 56.3% of respondents felt close to South Korea, and this was the 3.5% higher than 3.5 points higher than in September 2023, and 10.4 points higher than in October 2022. So it's steadily growing upwards.
Right, Koichi, good to know, good to know. Now, the same survey, Koichi, showed that the percentage of Japanese people who believe Tokyo and Seoul have good ties also rose over 5 percentage points to 51.2%. What, Koichi, do you believe is behind this improvement?
I think I have to give you a number from October 2022. At that time, only 28.3% of people thought Japan-South Korea relations were good. But in 2 years, this number improved by 23 points. And one major reason is that South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol visited Japan in March 2023, and restarting high-level shuttle diplomacy between the two countries for the first time in 12 years. And another reason is that the South Korean government proposed a solution to the wartime labor issue, which has caused tension between the two countries since 2018. And also in August 2023, Japan and the US and South Korea held a summit at Camp David, decided to strengthen their cooperation. And of course, the end of COVID-19 travel restriction in 2022 also helped improve mutual relationship. But I believe that the fact that both countries' leaders showed a strong will to improve relations in 2023 was the bigger factor for the improvement.
Right. Keeping in mind what Koichi just said, Professor Im, how does a shift in political landscape here in South Korea then look to affect future Seoul-Tokyo ties? I mean, some claim that a shift in leadership from conservative to liberal may hamper bilateral ties between Seoul and Tokyo. Others claim that, keeping in mind the U.S.'s protectionist policies as we speak, may push Seoul and Tokyo together, close together, regardless of which political party takes power. What are your thoughts, Professor Im?
Sure. First of all, as Mr. Yonemura already pointed out, the whole kind of reconciliation or restoration of the relationship between South Korea and Japan was started from the top level. Again, it was more like a top-down rapprochement, which was led by President Yoon Suk-yeol and the Prime Minister Kishida Fumio back then. However, at the same time, I also need to highlight, I think, the bottom-up demand for the better relationship between the two closest neighbor in this region. Again, the Korea, Japan, Japan, Korea, these two countries, these two nations are physically the closest neighbor in the region. Of course, we have the sea between us, but still the physical distance is much shorter, which means over not only just decades or century, even over the more than thousand years, these two regions have exchanged culture or traditions, many different values. So the ties between the two regions has been much deeper and strong. And then currently, if you see the more younger generation of the two society, again, the Korean younger generation, Japanese younger generation, they do have a really close cultural ties. That kind of, now I'm not just talking about K-pop or, Japanese anime, not only those kind of things, even political culture as well. Both societies are very free society in the world, and under this kind of very free, liberal democratic regime, our young people, again, the Korean young people, Japanese young people, they grew up in a very vibrant, free culture. So they can easily get together with one another. So that kind of, political culture or social culture, I think, is another positive thing that put the two people together. So what I'm trying to say is, of course, it was initiated by the two leaders, but at the same time, I also want to highlight the bottom-up demand. So consequently speaking, even though, the political leadership can be changing from one to the other, because especially Korean system is much similar with the American system. It's a presidential system, two-party system, even though we have other minority party, but still two major parties are the real main actors, especially in the presidential election. So politics can be swinging pretty dramatically, just like the United States. However, still I want to remain, and I think I can remain very much optimistic about the prospect of the two countries' relationship because of the reason I just shared.
Right. Meanwhile, Koichi, with regard to Korea's political turmoil, according to a Hong Kong-based news website, Japanese newspapers are reportedly voicing concerns over the deepening political divide here in South Korea, fearing that North Korea may seek to take advantage of this particular polarization. Could you tell us a bit more about this, Koichi, speaking, of course, within your capacity as a deputy foreign news editor at the Mainichi?
Of course, many people in Japan are concerned about political instability in South Korea because, as Professor Lim pointed out, we believe that we share the same value like democracy and freedom and so on. And also, we are South Korea is very important neighbor for us. And I think our biggest worry is the unpredictability of South Korea's political direction. So President Yoon's declaration of martial law was an extreme example. And additionally, when his supporters stormed a courthouse after his arrest, it shocked many people in Japan. And of course, also this is as Professor Lim pointed out, this kind of divideness is it's not a problem only in South Korea. This kind of thing is becoming more intense worldwide. And when societies split into opposing camps and some people start disregarding laws and institutions if it doesn't benefit them. So I think this much. Several important court rulings are expected in South Korea, right? And soon, and we will hope that both the ruling and opposition parties will respect the legal process. And I think North Korean issue, North Korea is not currently interfering in South Korea's internal politics. However, if political instability continues for a long time, of course, North Korea may try to take advantage of the situation. So that's why it's crucial to avoid prolonged political confusion, I believe.
Right. Professor, Japanese Foreign Minister Takeshi Iwaya became the first top diplomat to visit South Korea in January amid the country's political turmoil, and both he and Foreign Minister Cho Tae-il shared hopes for a trilateral meeting with China in the near future. Again, Professor, what are the prospects of productive ties among these three East Asian countries amid the current changes in the global geopolitical landscape, and what would be the gains of active trilateral interactions?
Sure. Again, the Korea-Japan, both Korea-Japan are the allies of the United States. This alliance is a very basic, fundamental condition when we are trying to build up our security policy. So that's, I don't need to really deny the importance of the alliance relationship with the United States. As long as our ally, again, the U.S., is competing strategically with the China. This strategic competition is qualitatively different from the competition between Soviet and then U.S. during the Cold War era. It was more about ideological competition, and it was also about a nuclear arsenal. But today is the current ongoing competition between U.S. and China is more about the future technology, which includes, for example, AI, artificial intelligence, or quantum computing, or space technology, those kind of future technology, who can be really at the front row in this competition. So that is why it is hard to expect the competition between the U.S. and China gonna be slowing down. The sooner or later, because this is a more like a real competition for the future. However, even though Korea, Japan, we share some interest with the U.S. as the military allies of the United States, that does not necessarily mean that their U.S.-American strategy is exactly identical with the Korean or Japanese national interest. We have our own national interests. Again, the China is our neighbor, and without Chinese support and their engagement, we can't solve the problem of the North Korea. Again, the North Korea's nuclear threat, North Korea's missile program, or many other humanitarian issues too. So China's engagement is mandatory, or many other environmental issues, including air pollution or climate change, or those, trading issues too. So definitely we don't want to put the China as, the other side. Again, we don't want to make China, our enemy. So definitely that is not the Korea's and Japan's national interest. So, even though we do share some, the strategic interest with the U.S., but at the same time, we also need to engage in a more constructive trilateral dialogue, especially for the regional issues, such as, again, the North Korea-related issues, I think.
Right. And speaking about North Korea-related issues, Koichi, moving forward, Tokyo hosted a trilateral secretariat meeting among South Korea, Japan, and the U.S., I believe, last week. What was the gist of that particular gathering, Koichi?
Actually, on February, as you said, February 27, working level meeting between Japan, South Korea, and the U.S. was held in Tokyo. And this meeting was not meant to produce any major agreements, But a week earlier, the important thing was a week earlier, the three countries' foreign ministers met in Munich and agreed to express serious concerns about North Korean nuclear weapons and missile development, and also as well as North Korea-Russia military cooperation. And for now, it seems that the U.S. policy toward North Korea has not changed under President Trump's leadership, which is somewhat reassuring. However, the February 28th meeting between President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky had a big shock for all of us, both in Japan and maybe, I believe, also in South Korea. And in the coming years, we need to carefully watch how our relationship with U.S. and China evolves. And I totally agree with the Professor Lim's point of view that engagement with the China is crucial for both of us.
Right, for sure then. Professor, keeping in mind what Koichi has just said, the dramatic exchange between President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has raised a lot of questions about future diplomatic interactions with Washington. Keeping that in mind, Professor, what are your prospects with regard to the trilateral partnership among South Korea, Japan and the US under the Trump administration?
Well, again, the last week, I think the rest of the world was pretty much shocked by the scene, again, which was very much contentious, again, between the President Trump and the President Zelensky. We have never probably seen that kind of, dialogues between the two world leaders about, their different interpretations about the situations. Well, each president, each leader of any country, he or she can have his or her right to represent his or her the country's national interests. In that sense, I want to just be respectful for the both leadership. But at the same time, we need to be careful enough what the Mr. Trump, President Trump's that kind of, again, the style. He does have his own style. Being a, how would you say, more like aggressive at front of him might not really have been a really good idea. I think Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru did a good job. I know, that there are some sarcastic, cynical criticism about the Prime Minister Ishiba's that kind of manner in front of the Mr. Trump, but I personally do think he did a good job. So what I'm trying to say is, again, we need to be respectful enough to the leader of our ally, and at the same time, not only just that kind of manner or attitude, but at the same time, we really need to remember that President Trump is a deal maker. He's a very, one of his major characteristics is he's very transactional. So we need to show this is, good for America's national interests too. So we need to develop that kind of, logics, rationales when we are trying to persuade, again, the President Trump. So for that, I think Korea, Japan, we need to talk more. We need to coordinate more when we are working with, again, the Washington, especially under the President Trump's leadership.
Koichi, this is an impromptu question, but as Professor Im just mentioned, quite a number of foreign media actually applauded Prime Minister Ishiba Shigeru's interaction with US President Trump at the White House during their summit talks. What was the response, Koichi, in Japan?
Well, basically, most of the experts highly valued the, Prime Minister Ishiba's achievement. I think there are, behind that scene, there are a lot of preparation of all the diplomats and all the government officials. And Prime Minister Ishiba also, I think he was very well prepared. But also there are, of course, criticism on him, whether he was too weak, not weak, but he was not look so strong in front of President Trump, or he couldn't, how can I say, draw enough result from the dialogue with President Trump. But personally, I think he did quite well. We actually worried that, if he made a big mistake, then we will be in a big trouble, but we could avoid that. So.
Right, but like I said,
it was good. Yeah.
Right, quite a number of foreign media were actually saying it was a step in the right direction, his interaction with Mr. Trump. Finally, Koichi, let's end on a light note, beyond politics and diplomacy. Now, a host of joint productions, Koichi, between South Korea and Japan are showing on Netflix this year, including a food show and a drama series, as well as movies for the big screen. Do you see these efforts, Koichi, on the entertainment front, encouraging perhaps constructive interaction between the two countries on security and trade as well?
Well, if I look back 30 years ago, when I was a university student in 90s, when I spoke with my South Korean friends, we mostly talked about American music and American movies. And today, South Korean young people enjoy Japanese manga and anime, while Japanese younger generation listen to K-pop and watch K-dramas. And it's a big difference. But however, I think personally, we should not overestimate the effect of cultural exchange on political or economic relations. A friend of mine recently published a book on whether cultural exchange improves relations between neighboring countries. And one conclusion of that book is that while cultural exchange increases mutual understandings, but it has little impact on political and diplomatic issues. So having said that, also I personally believe Japan and South Korea will continue to strengthen our security and economic cooperation. Both countries are located between two powerful nations, the US and China, and which are becoming more and more self-focused and inward-looking. So, and at the same time, we both face risks from North Korea. So to manage these challenges, it would be ideal for Japanese and South Korean politicians and officials to build a more strong and trust-based relationship.
Right. Then on that positive note, I will end today's talk. Koichi, as always, thank you very much for your time and your thoughts. And Professor Im, thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you.
Right, as mentioned at the start of our session today, South Korea and Japan mark 60 years of diplomatic relations this year amid hopes for greater momentum in advancing bilateral ties. Thank you for watching.